What if I told you your life isn't short? You're just not living most of it. Because that's the truth. You're not out of time. You're leaking it, minute by minute, on things that don't matter, for reasons you can't even remember. You scroll, you stress, you say maybe later, and one day, later becomes never. I used to tell myself I was just busy, that I'd make time soon, but all I was really doing was avoiding the truth. I wasn't choosing how I spent my life. I was letting other people choose for me. Seneca, Roman philosopher, statesman, and one of the sharpest minds to ever confront the human condition, saw this 2,000 years ago. He didn't write about how to hustle. He wrote about how to wake up. In his essay on the shortness of life, he says, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." And that hits hard, because we all feel it. We feel busy, overwhelmed, like life's moving too fast. But what if the real problem isn't speed? It's distraction. This video isn't about managing your time. It's about reclaiming your life, not by doing more, but by doing less of what doesn't matter. Let's walk through 10 insights from Seneca, not just as advice, but as a personal reckoning. Because if you're not careful, you won't run out of time. You'll just realize too late that you weren't living any of it. 1. Time is your most valuable possession, but you give it away like it's nothing. Let me ask you something, and answer honestly. If a stranger walked up to you and asked for $100, would you give it to them? Probably not. But when someone asks for 10 minutes of your time, how often do you say yes without even thinking? Seneca noticed this centuries ago. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, he wrote, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they're most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. Here's the thing. We protect our stuff. Our phones, our bank accounts, our passwords, with firewalls and Face ID, but we leave our time wide open for meaningless meetings, endless scrolling, conversations we didn't choose, and habits we never question. I used to do this all the time. I'd say yes to things I didn't care about. I'd stay up watching videos I didn't even like. I'd check my phone 10 times before finishing a single sentence. And every time, I'd tell myself it didn't matter. It's just 10 minutes. It's just a few notifications. It's just one episode. But here's the truth Seneca makes impossible to ignore. Every just a few minutes is your life, leaking away unnoticed. We think we have time, but we don't know that. The amount we get is uncertain, the expiration date is hidden, and once it runs out, that's it. You don't get a refund. You don't get to negotiate. Seneca says we treat time like it's free because we've never done the math. So let's do it. If you spend 2 hours a day doing things that don't matter, that's 730 hours a year. That's 30 full days of your life. Every year traded for what? Exactly. Distraction, approval, comfort. Here's how I started thinking about it. If I had 30 days left to live, would I spend one of them refreshing my email inbox? Would I spend another one watching people argue in comment sections? Would I spend an entire month, every year, giving away my mind, my attention, my presence, for nothing? That's when it hit me. Time isn't something I own. It's something I'm constantly spending, whether I mean to or not. So I started being stingy, not with money, with my minutes. Because when you begin treating time like your most valuable currency, you stop giving it to people, platforms, and problems that haven't earned it. And for the first time in years, I started feeling rich. 2, stop preparing for life. Start living it. Here's something that took me way too long to admit. I was always getting ready to live. Planning, organizing, optimizing, telling myself, once things settle down, once I finish this project, once I figure it out, then I'd really live. Then I'd wake up early, take care of my body, call the people I love, create the things that mattered. But the thing is, that then never came. Just more prep, more waiting, more convincing myself I was being responsible by postponing joy. Seneca calls this out hard. He who plans out every day as if it were his last, neither longs for nor fears the morrow. He's not saying don't plan. He's saying, don't hide inside your planning. And that's what I was doing. Making endless systems, reading another book, cleaning my workspace for the 3rd time, convincing myself that preparing to live was the same as living. But it's not. One afternoon, I had a calendar so packed it looked like a wall of noise. I was supposed to write, supposed to answer emails, supposed to go meet someone I didn't really want to see. And then I saw the light outside. Soft, late-day gold coming through the window like it didn't care about my schedule. So I walked out, left my phone, took nothing with me but my keys and silence. And here's the truth. I don't remember what was on that to-do list, but I remember that walk, every step of it, that quiet, that light, that moment where life didn't feel like something I had to earn. It was just there, waiting. I just had to stop postponing it. We tell ourselves we'll start living once we feel ready. But ready is a moving target, and more often than not, it's just fear, dressed up as preparation. Seneca knew this. He compared time to a fast-moving stream. If you were dying of thirst and came across a river, would you wait until later to drink? Or would you drop to your knees and take in as much as you could while it's still flowing? That's your life, right now. Since then, I stopped asking, what do I need to do today to get ahead? And started asking, what would I do today if I knew tomorrow wasn't promised? Not because I expect the worst, but because I want to live like this moment actually matters. So I started writing sooner, even when I didn't feel inspired, calling people when they came to mind, not when I had time, going outside just to feel the wind on my face instead of earning it after finishing work. And the strangest part, I didn't fall behind. I didn't become lazy. I became alive again. Life is long enough, Seneca wrote, if you know how to use it. So stop preparing. Stop planning your life like it's a future event. The life you want isn't waiting for you someday. It's waiting for you to notice it now. 3, live life for yourself. Not for the script you've been handed. For a long time, I measured my life by boxes I was checking. Job title, relationship status, productivity, approval. It wasn't that I wanted those things. It was that I was supposed to want them. That's the script. Right. You get the degree, you get the job, you get the car, the partner, the house, and somewhere in there, happiness is supposed to show up, but it didn't. Not for me. What showed up was a kind of quiet fatigue, a sense that I was showing up to a life that wasn't really mine, doing things I didn't question for reasons I couldn't explain. Seneca saw this long before the age of Instagram or LinkedIn, or what do? You must not think a man has lived long because he has white hair and wrinkles. He has not lived long, just existed long. That line hit me like a cold wind, because I was existing, performing, obliging, saying yes to things that made me feel less like myself, just to keep the image together. And when I finally slowed down, when I started writing out what I actually wanted, there was this strange silence. I didn't know. Not really. Because I'd spent so long living by other people's definitions of success that I'd never stopped to ask, what would my life look like if I wasn't trying to impress anyone? If no one was watching, who would I be? That's where it started to shift. Not with a big leap, not with quitting everything, but with a quiet refusal. I started saying no to the things that didn't feel like mine. No to plans that drained me. No to goals that weren't chosen, just inherited. I remember one morning I was sitting at a coffee shop, early, still tired, still figuring it out. But for once, I wasn't rushing anywhere. And a line from Meditations came back to me. One I'd underlined but never lived. Ask yourself at every moment, is this necessary? I wasn't sure if what I was doing was necessary, but I was sure that what I had been doing wasn't. So I sat there, alone, quiet, and I realized I didn't miss the script. I didn't miss the noise. I missed myself. That was the beginning of a new way of thinking. Not about chasing passion, but about designing a life that didn't betray me, and I'm still figuring it out. Still failing sometimes. Still tempted to perform, to please, to prove. But now, I catch it, and I come back to this. You don't owe anyone a version of yourself that doesn't feel true. You can let go of the script. You can write your own. Not for applause, not for approval, but because you're tired of living a life that doesn't fit your soul. 4. Use premeditatio malorum, or keep getting surprised by the same mistakes. You ever notice how the same problems keep finding you? The same kind of delay, the same kind of person, the same kind of chaos showing up at the worst possible time. As if life keeps handing you the same lesson, just in a different outfit. For a year, I thought it was bad luck, or poor timing, or that I just hadn't found the right routine yet. But the truth was simpler. I wasn't preparing for difficulty. I was hoping for ease, and calling that optimism. Seneca, of course, had no patience for that. Life is more like a play than a battlefield, he wrote, but you must still rehearse for your part. And one of the core Stoic practices was something called premeditatio malorum, literally, or the premeditation of evils. Not to be negative, not to be paranoid, but to be ready. I remember once, I walked into a big meeting unprepared because I'd assumed everything would go smoothly. It didn't. My stomach dropped. My mind blanked. I walked out sweating, trying to smile, and I kept asking, why did I expect ease? That's when I realized I never rehearsed difficulty. I just hoped it wouldn't show up. That's what premeditatio malorum is for. It's not just a mindset, it's a habit of asking, what could go wrong today? What will likely challenge me? Where do I tend to collapse? And how can I prepare It sounds simple, but when I started doing it, even mentally and every morning, things changed. I still had bad days, but I wasn't surprised by them. And when you're not surprised, you're not shaken, Seneca said. He who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than is necessary. But when you train your mind to expect resistance, you meet the day like a prepared traveler, not a lost one. Every morning now, I forecast just a little, not in fear, but in respect for the storm. I don't wait for trouble to knock. I meet it at the door. 5, don't wait years for the reward. Pull it closer for a long time. I thought discipline was about suffering now to enjoy life later. Work hard, grind it out, delay gratification, and one day, hopefully, I'd be proud of who I'd become. That's what we're taught. Sacrifice today, enjoy tomorrow. But Seneca saw the danger in that mindset, especially when tomorrow isn't promised. Cutting things off is the biggest waste of life, he wrote. It snatches away each day as it comes and denies us the present by promising the future. And he was right, because here's what no one tells you. The future never arrives all at once. It arrives in tiny pieces, disguised as today. I used to build these elaborate schedules, everything color-coded, everything optimized. I'd say things like, once I finish this, then I'll rest. Once I hit this milestone, then I'll take a day for myself. But somehow, and I kept moving the finish line. And every time I pushed it further, I pushed life itself with it. I didn't realize I was becoming a prisoner of someday. And that's a cell you build yourself, one small postponement at a time. Seneca wasn't against hard work. He was against postponed living. And when I read that, something clicked. I didn't need to eliminate effort. I needed to pull my rewards closer. Here's what I mean. The human brain isn't wired for long-term payoffs. It craves immediacy, urgency, feedback. That's why it's so easy to procrastinate. Not because we're lazy, but because the reward is too far away to feel real. So I started creating micro-rewards, not bribes, not indulgences, but real incentives that honored effort in real time. For example, if I finished writing something hard, I'd take 20 minutes to read outside. No guilt. And if I resisted the urge to check my phone, I'd track it and see the streak grow. If I woke up early 3 days in a row, I'd give myself a slow morning on the 4th. Tiny shifts, but they changed everything. Because suddenly, the effort felt worth it now, not just later. Seneca understood this. The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy. We push life away, waiting for the perfect moment. But perfection isn't real. Only this moment is. And the more we anchor our meaning and momentum to the future, the more we lose the urgency to live now. So I stopped pretending the big payoff would save me. I stopped telling myself I'd enjoy my life after I became successful. And instead, I started asking, how can I feel a sense of meaning before this day is over? What's one way I can feel proud of myself without needing to earn it for 10 years? Section. Now I still work hard. I still plan, but I don't postpone the feeling of being alive. Because the truth is, fulfillment isn't just something you reach. It's something you create by rewarding your courage in real time. And when you do that, life doesn't just happen later. It starts showing up right now. 6. Your free time isn't free. So stop spending it like it's worthless. For years, I treated free time like leftover scraps. The hours after work, the weekends, the in-betweens. Those were the relaxed slots, the nothing hours, time to scroll, binge, wander, zone out. I told myself I deserved it, that I was unwinding, but somewhere along the way, those hours stopped feeling free and started feeling wasted. Seneca saw this trap long before smartphones, Netflix, or just one more video. It's not that we have a short time to live, he wrote, but that we waste much of it. And it's true. We don't guard our free time the way we guard our schedules. We let it evaporate, not because we don't have enough of it, but because we don't assign it any value. I started noticing something a while back. I'd finish a long day, shut my laptop, open my phone, and 2 hours would vanish. Not in joy, not in rest, just drift. And afterward, I wouldn't feel relaxed. I'd feel dull, stretched thin, weirdly irritated. It wasn't that I did nothing. It was that I let nothingness choose me. Seneca believed leisure wasn't the absence of work. It was the presence of the self. He wrote, "Only those who make time for philosophy are truly alive." But let's not get caught in the word philosophy. What he meant wasn't ivory towers or debate clubs. He meant time spent with yourself, thinking deeply, reading slowly, walking deliberately, journaling quietly. He meant time not consumed, but inhabited. I remember this moment vividly. It was a Sunday afternoon. I had 2 free hours. My instinct was to fill them with something passive, a series, a feed, a distraction. But instead, I made tea, sat by the window, read 3 pages of something that actually challenged me, and wrote 1 line in a notebook. My attention is the cost of my freedom. That line stayed with me because I realized my free time had been purchased by people, platforms, and patterns I didn't even choose. Now, I'm not perfect. There are still days when I lose hours to nothing, but I've built a rule for myself. But if I call it free time, it better make me feel free, not guilty, not groggy, but present, alive, a little bit more like myself. So now I try to spend that time like currency, on books that sharpen me, walks that center me, conversations that actually matter. Even 10 minutes, used well, can reset your entire spirit. Seneca believed that the true test of a person's life wasn't just what they achieved, but how they inhabited their own hours. And when I started measuring my days that way, not by how busy I was, but by how honestly I lived in my downtime, I started to feel whole again. 7. Don't just remember the past. Reflect on it until it teaches you something. We live in a culture obsessed with the future. What's next? What's the plan? Where are you headed? But the more I tried to move forward without looking back, the more I realized I was dragging things with me. Patterns, wounds, blind spots. Things I thought I had moved on from, but never really understood. Seneca wrote, "Life is very short and anxious for those who forget the past. neglect the present, and fear the future. I used to think looking back was unproductive, that it was dwelling, that the past was over. So what's the point? But the past doesn't vanish just because we stop talking about it. It waits. And if you don't return to it with honesty, it keeps replaying itself in your present, just under different names, different faces, different mistakes. I remember one night, maybe a year ago, I couldn't sleep. I wasn't upset. I wasn't anxious. Just uncomfortable, like something was unsettled beneath the surface. So I got up, sat at the kitchen table, opened my notebook, and wrote down one question. What have I been refusing to learn from my past? I started writing, not neatly, not poetically, just honestly. Moments I had buried, people I had blamed, mistakes I had moved on from, but never truly understood. And slowly, in the quiet, it started to make sense. Not all of it, but enough to realize something important. The past doesn't ask for your regret. It asks for your attention. Seneca saw the past as a kind of anchor, not to hold us back, but to hold us steady, to remind us of who we've been, so we can choose who we become. Time is divided into three parts, he wrote. The past, which is certain, the present, which is fleeting, and the future, which is unknown. We spend so much energy trying to predict the future, control the present, and we leave the one part of time we actually own untouched, our past. But buried in it is everything. The pain you carry but never named, the lessons you earned but never applied, the proof that you've already survived more than you give yourself credit for. So now I make time for it. Once a week, I sit with a journal and ask, what is my past still trying to teach me? Sometimes the answer is small, sometimes it stings, but every time, I walk away feeling more whole, like I'm reclaiming pieces of myself I didn't know I'd left behind. This isn't nostalgia. This is clarity, because you can't think clearly about where you're going if you don't understand where you've already been. And once you stop running from your past, you can finally start learning from it. 8. Say no to what doesn't matter, or you'll have no time left for what does. There was a stretch of time, maybe 6 months, maybe longer, when I couldn't finish anything I started, not because I didn't care, not because I wasn't capable, but because I was always saying yes to everything but myself. Someone would ask for a quick favor. I'd say yes. Last-minute meeting. Sure. Just one more scroll, one more reply, one more thing I didn't need to do but didn't stop. I told myself I was being helpful, available, reliable. But really, I was afraid of being selfish, afraid of disappointing people, afraid of seeming like I thought my time mattered more than theirs. Seneca would have called that what it was, self-abandonment dressed up as virtue. If such people want to know how short their lives are, he wrote, let them reflect how small a portion is their own. That line shook me, because when I finally looked at my calendar, my energy, my focus, almost none of it belonged to me. We think time gets stolen from us, but most of the time, we give it away in little slices, in sure, I can help, in I'll just check real quick, in it's not a big deal. but it is. Because all those not a big deals add up to a life that's no longer yours. I remember one morning, I sat down with a full day blocked off to write. No meetings, no obligations, just me and the page. By 10, I'd checked my email 6 times. By noon, I'd said yes to 2 quick calls. By 3, I'd agreed to help someone with something that wasn't even mine. By the end of the day, the writing never happened. The day was gone, and I had nothing to show for it, except the quiet frustration of having let it happen again. That was the day I realized, if I don't protect my time, no one else will. Seneca said, "The person who says yes to everyone will soon find he has no time of his own." And you feel that. Not all at once, but slowly. You feel it in your exhaustion, in the way your goals always seem to get pushed to later, in the way resentment starts building, not toward others, but toward yourself. Because deep down, you know, you've been trading what matters most for what matters least. So now I practice the opposite. I say no more often, not because I don't care, but because I finally do. I care about doing fewer things well. I care about thinking clearly. I care about not abandoning my own priorities just to stay nice. It's not easy. It's not always comfortable, but it's honest. And the strange thing is, the more I said no to what didn't matter, the more space I found for what did. 9. Create memories, not just checkpoints. There's a strange moment that hits you when you've achieved something you thought would change everything, and it doesn't. You hit the goal, you cross the finish line, and you expect some kind of shift, a clean sense of arrival, but often it just fades, and what you're left with is not the finish line, but everything that happened on the way to it. I used to live in checkpoints. Get the project done, get through the week, get the next thing on the list, and then I could relax, reflect, be present. But I noticed something over time. I wasn't collecting experiences. I was collecting timestamps, screenshots, metrics, milestones, things that looked like a life well lived, but felt strangely hollow when I looked back. Seneca, as always, saw it clearly. You have been preoccupied while life hastens on. Meanwhile, death will arrive, and you have no choice in making yourself available for that. He's not being grim. He's being honest. Because what we carry with us in the end won't be achievements. It'll be memories. And the mistake we make, the one I made, was thinking that life would remember itself if I was productive enough. But it doesn't. Life doesn't become memorable just because you were efficient. It becomes memorable when you were awake. I think about this sometimes when I walk past the old apartment on Clinton Street. 4th floor, noisy pipes, horrible light in the kitchen. But I can still hear the late night music, still feel the summer air coming in through that cracked window, still see the faces of friends I've barely spoken to since. I don't remember what I accomplished those years, but I remember that feeling. The one you get when you're fully in something, not trying to optimize it. That's the memory, and it stayed. So now, I try to live for that. Not the post, not the portfolio, but the moment I'll still remember when none of this is on the internet anymore. That doesn't mean I've stopped building, planning, doing. It means I ask a different question when I plan my time now. Will I remember this? Or will I just mark it off and forget it next week? Seneca wrote, "Memory is more enduring than grief," and I've learned to believe him. Because no matter how much you try to outrun time, what gives your life weight, what makes it yours, is what you felt deeply enough to carry forward. So spend your time doing things that stay. The hike you took on impulse, the dinner you didn't rush, the friend you really listened to. Because one day, when your calendars are blank and your goals are long done, what you'll have left isn't how efficient you were, but how vividly you lived. 10. Study philosophy not to sound wise, but to stay free. When I first came across Stoicism, I didn't treat it like a lifeline. I treated it like a concept, something to quote, something that made me sound thoughtful when I was anything but. I underlined Seneca like I was collecting weapons, to win arguments, to look composed, to feel smart in rooms where I felt small. But none of that helped me when life actually collapsed, when the plans fell apart, when someone I loved walked away, when I stared at my calendar and couldn't remember the last time I felt alive in my own routine. In those moments, clever didn't matter. Only clarity did. Seneca wrote, "Of all people, only those who make time for philosophy are truly alive." Not because philosophy gives you answers, but because it teaches you how to stand still in your own chaos and not lose yourself. It gives you the tools to separate noise from signal and remind you, again and again, what's actually in your control. It doesn't promise you peace, it teaches you how to build peace out of broken hours. Philosophy is what taught me to be okay with not knowing, to stop chasing perfect outcomes and start asking better questions, to stop reacting and start responding, to live by principles, not pressure. It's what brought me back to myself when I kept disappearing into the world's expectations. And now I don't read Seneca to look smart. I read him to stay free. Free from distraction, free from self-sabotage, free from chasing a life I don't even want, just because it looks good in a post. So if there's one thing I've learned from all of this, from these 10 insights, from these long nights of journaling, reflecting, walking through the fog with a pen in my hand, it's this: thinking clearly is not a talent. It's a discipline, and it begins with a decision: my life is mine, my time is mine. And from this moment on, I'll start living like I know what it's worth. If this video found you in the middle of that same fog, if you've been busy but lost, productive but absent, then don't just take these words and scroll away. Take one thought, one quote, one insight, and live it. Because as Seneca reminds us, you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire, but you are not immortal. And that's not a tragedy. That's your cue. Thank you for spending your time here. If even one line helped bring you back to yourself, share this with someone else who might need it. And if you want more stories, more philosophy, more quiet clarity, you're always welcome here. Hit subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.